Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided.
This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy and other Eagan community television programming is supported by Thomson Reuters, makers of Westlawn Next and based in Eagan. Through Westlawn Next and other innovative online services, Thomson Reuters is the world's leading source of intelligent information for businesses and professionals. Online at thomsonreuters.com. And by U.S. Federal Credit Union, the member-owned financial institution offering service, value, and experience you can trust to the greater Twin Cities community.
And a very special Access to Democracy. As usual, Alan Miller in the host chair, but we have two really special guests. One is the man whose name is more synonymous with Eagan probably than anyone else, and that's Tom Hedges, who's retiring after 38 years as administrator. And there's just so much we can say about Tom, and we'll try to say it. And a surprise guest. Tom didn't know that Pat Anderson, our former mayor, was coming in to surprise him and grace us with this interview. And what can we say about Pat that I haven't already said?
Oh.
And Pat is as far right as I am left. I love her. She's been here since the beginning of this show. It's 14 years now. And
we've had some good spars, Alan.
She's remained young and beautiful, and I'm falling apart. But that's. But one thing you can say about Pat, and I was talking to Tom before she got here, the one thing I remember about her, other than the fact that she was a really good fiscal steward of this city, is when we had the 100-year flood, you found Pat right out in the middle of it, in hip boots and waders, fighting for the people. And that's something I think that marks her tenure, and Tom, you mentioned that.
That's correct. No, I remember the same, and Pat, when you were mayor, I was telling Ellen that not only fiscally on track, but also an advocate for public buildings in our community, the Cascade Bay, the civic arenas. She knew the community center, having the vision that these facilities were going to be needed not only then but for the future, and that community center is a sellout all the time. And Cascade Bay, how many jobs have been created from young people working there?
The national attention that it gets,
just
all
fabulous.
Under your administration. But I know that you had to fight hard to get some of these things, you know, believed in and then accomplished.
Yeah, and that's the way it is. Anytime you have a, you know, I was blessed to serve, blessed or not blessed, to serve at a time when Eagan was really growing. And I served 12 years with Tom and other council members and mayors. And, you know, it was a crazy time in Eagan. But things have slowed down a little bit. You know, development's slowed. And,
well, we don't have that much development left to develop here. And fortunately, a decision just came down, which is probably going to block our last golf course from being turned into yet more housing. But you started 2 years after Eagan was incorporated.
That's correct.
You were the first, and until next weekend, you are the only administrator that Eagan has ever had. You were saying that Eagan was 16,000 people?
About 16,000. I started in 1976, and that's about what the population was at that time, 16,000 people.
And we're 65,000 approximately today. We've been a little bit higher.
That's correct.
After the recession.
I have to say something, I don't mean to butt in, but that's an amazing thing that...
This never stopped you butting in on me.
That's right, that's right. But that somebody can... you know, Tom has spent almost 40 years in this community, really running, and mayors and council members have come and gone, but Tom has been really the steady hand that's helped guide Eagan. And we've developed from, you know, what, 4 times the size during Tom's tenure, and I think we've developed very, very well. And Tom has, you know, Tom deserves a lot of, you know, respect. I don't, what's the word? But you know, I give you a lot of credit for this, Tom.
Well, somebody
thank
said
you.
recently,
Thank you.
there is no other Tom Hedges.
There isn't.
And it really is true. One of the things you did was see to it that with our growth, and of course, as an Eagan resident, I'm prejudiced also, but a recent poll shows 95% of the people are happy to live here, except maybe Pat, who moved away.
Only because I fell in love, Alan. Had to move. I might be back.
She threw me over, but that's neither here nor there. But the residential area is separate from a very vibrant commercial area. We have seen, and we just mentioned the innovations that happen, particularly under Pat. Cascade Bay is nationally known now and so popular. The library moved here during your tenure. The community center, which is, I mean, it's a thriving community center. I actually go and exercise there, although you wouldn't know it to look at me. But there are so many activities there, and it's sold out all the time for functions. Eagan has so much, and we're so accessible to really transport, the airport, things like that, and
It's a great community.
It's a great community.
And again, when Tom started, and you know, a lot of Eagan was farmland still, and in fact, the majority was probably farmland.
Gravel roads, 2-lane county roads, no interstates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had, you know, a little bit of, you had Cedar Grove, some of that was here, and some of the northern Eagan was here. But otherwise, you know, it was a blank slate, and you were, you know, able to take a community and, you know, develop it and have a vision for it. And Tom certainly had that.
well, I tried to get some opinions, and Tim Pawlenty said, Tom Hedges is the nicest person I've ever met. And I said, me? And he said, Tom Hedges is the nicest person I've ever.
You're too opinionated to be nice, Alan.
I wouldn't miss this for anything today. This is great.
Well, what is this now? The 5th or the 6th farewell Tom Hedges function that we've had in the city in the last 10 days?
I remember when I told the mayor and council back in the fall when I announced publicly I was going to be leaving. I said, I really don't need any recognition. You know, maybe if you want to do one thing, that'd be fine. Well, a couple months later, they said,
You don't really need any recognition.
No.
because Your national,
Everyone recognizes him.
Your appearance on the national stage is recognition that's going to be there long after
Well,
you have retired.
I told the mayor and council, you know, I just don't need anything, you know, maybe a function. And they said, well, get used to it. The community wants to have fun. And I'm starting to understand that. It's really, it is a lot of fun, and it's a time for reflection. And I'm always looking ahead and envisioning for the next weekend, the next year. So the pause to look back and really understand how we got here has been really a lot of fun, actually, in the last several weeks.
How many mayors have you worked with?
There are eight mayors. The first mayor, Herb Polzine, and then to Mike McGuire, who's the seated mayor now. And I believe the total is 24 different elected officials, and what I mean by that,
Commissioners, you mean?
no, it'd be a city count. There's 16 city council and 8 mayors. So I would only count Pat once. So it's 24 total different people, because Pat was both on the city council and mayor, and we've had that happen.
Pretty regularly, if you
Yeah.
think about it. Tom Eagan was a council member.
Vic Ellison.
B.
Tom Eagan, you
police
mentioned.
chief.
Yep. Mike McGuire.
Mike McGuire.
No, the police chief was only mayor.
He was never on the council.
So he was
Eagan.
never on the council.
Yeah.
He went from retirement
I know.
to being mayor, because I talked him into it.
He called me
Looking
one
for a
day
good
from the
mayor.
golf course and said, what do you think about me being mayor? And I said, I started to laugh, thought he was kidding. And he said, well, I'm with Pat, with you
Yeah.
at the time, with Pat Anderson. And I said, you're serious, aren't you? And I said, was I pretty good to you when you were chief? He said, we'll see. you know, so I did have a wonderful relationship with Pat as chief, and then obviously as mayor. But
You started out in South Dakota?
I did. I grew up in Northwest Iowa, and then my degrees are from the University of South Dakota.
Did you know that Pat Anderson's favorite author is Tom Clancy?
Ah, I don't know that I knew that. Really?
Yep. So we have a little tie with
Well,
that.
we do.
Did you know that her favorite song, which she's used for her political campaigns, is Tom Petty's "Won't Back Down"?
Well, I probably should. I'm certain I've heard it.
Yeah.
And it would make sense.
She probably didn't know that I knew that.
I didn't know that.
That's it.
That would make sense.
And her attitude is win a few and lose a few, and she has done both and served as a Republican National Committee woman here in the state. And
Auditor.
I was actually hoping that she was going to become the chair of the Republican Party.
I am running far, far away from that, Alan.
And well, somebody has to pull it out of the morass that it's in, and I thought it would be you. But
Yeah, well, I don't want to do it, so I'm done being recruited. I'm not going to do it. But we don't want to talk. We want to talk
Hedges
about
is too impartial to
Yes,
get involved
he
in
is.
things
He's not,
like that.
He's
That's
not
a-
partisan.
That's one of the things really about you. You have been able to work with both sides, and you have been able to work with citizens groups and union groups and all sorts of different pulls on you, and yet everybody comes out saying Tom Hedges is the greatest guy. I don't know how you do that. I can't do it with one group, so I mean that's.
Well, I think one thing that attracted me to local government is really the roots and nature of nonpartisanism. And, you know, even though we're having fun here in terms of, you know, party politics, I didn't see that at the local level. When Pat, even knowing that Pat, you know, she's a Republican and all that, that may be
She is?
maybe her interest. I think I have that right. But it was never prominent as a council member or mayor. It was all about Eagan, and I think that is what's kept me and attracted me is the whole nonpartisan at the local level of government.
But part of that is you.
Yeah.
Part of that is your stewardship that really made it an impartial group that was really fighting for the good of Eagan. Because we've had both Republicans and Democrats
Absolutely.
on the council
Oh, gosh,
and as
yeah.
mayor, and yet they lose that focus when they're in the city of Eagan, which is why I think Eagan is a great place to live. I think Eagan has really risen to prominence under your realm, and
thank
you
you.
know, I think it's going to be a lasting endowment to you, really.
Well,
It's,
that's very kind. Thank you.
we didn't have West Publishing
Yeah.
when you started, and now we sit in the Thomson Reuters building, which is the grandfather of West Publishing, or vice versa. We didn't have Blue Cross Blue Shield headquartered here. We didn't have Northwest Airlines here. I wish we had them back, but we didn't have Unisys. So many outfits. And what about national trucking companies that are in that commercial area?
Yeah,
I
same
mean,
there with DART and some of the others. And the thing with those, we have their headquarters. We have the corporate presence and some outside storage and trucking.
And I can tell you why I think, I mean, we have a great location, so that of course helped, and we had undeveloped land, but the councils, but especially the staff under Tom's guidance, were very honest and with businesses. They were cooperative. We weren't out doling out money either. It wasn't that. People would come and they'd say, you know, what can you do for us if we move to your city? And we said, we are going to be very good local government partners. We're going to treat you well. If you need a permit, we're going to walk you through the process. You will have no surprises from us. And our taxes are low, and we're going to keep them that way. And that is a huge
even through the financial crisis.
Even through that, right. That's
And
a huge testament to the staff.
We're able to balance our budgets here and not suffer what a lot of the other cities suffered. Well, that has to go back to good fiscal management.
Right, but it's also an attitude. It's a cooperative attitude, with the business community, because that helps make Eagan, really thrive. And I think businesses are just looking for that. They're looking for local government partners that are are not going to get in their way.
That's right.
We say, here's
That's
the rules, right?
Yep,
Tom?
not being overly regulated. I think Pat's just summed it up so well. You know, it was always an even playing field in Eagan, you know, with business. And the low tax base is something that we take, I mean, we promote that, we push it out there. And councils all along have been really keeping the lid on that. Our per capita spending is always one of the lowest. The West Publishing Story, when they built their 6-story office building that we're in, we took them to Dakota County. They did some tax projections if they were to do the same building in Ramsey County versus Dakota County, Eagan, just no comparison. But I think it's also relationships. You know, we've built these wonderful relationships that's important with our business community and all the other groups that you kind of referenced early. And building that trust, building those relationships really helps the community thrive and helps businesses retain here and build and all those sorts of things.
And one of the things, of course, an administrator does, and there are city managers and city administrators, and never the twain shall meet, perhaps. We've had an attempt to make this a charter city, which we fought, and I say we, a lot of us, and it failed, which I think was to the benefit of the city. You've had to make the personnel decisions, you've had to make the budget decisions, and you've also had to shepherd the elections, and we have never had a problem with an election in this community, whether it's this community's part in a big election or in our local elections. That says an awful lot to me.
Yeah, well, that's very kind, and we take a lot of pride, and I think I appreciate Pat talking about the staff, because it is a great team, and it's always been my philosophy to hire the very best.
And you have hired that team, really.
And get out of the way with some of them, you know, give them room to grow. Let them spread their wings. They'll make some mistakes, but you support them. And I think we've had the benefit of an excellent team of people. And part of our whole succession with my planned retirement is to backfill some of the people that are leaving with good talent coming up. Try to hire the best of the best, and they want to work in an environment where they have that kind of momentum, and I think Eagan has that. So
people want to come to Eagan, they really do. And when it comes to housing, we have some really inexpensive housing, we have some condo housing, we have some middle-class housing, and we have some really, really luxurious homes. We really have a little bit of everything here.
Nice variety.
Together with the shopping, and let's not mention, or let's not forget to mention, what's going on now down in Cedar Grove.
Finally,
finally.
That happened. You know, I think Tom Eagan was mayor when we started that, right before
That'd
Tom
be
left.
right.
It's been a long time, but you know, it was not good timing with the recession, and
we had that terrible flood, and you were right in the middle of it. And now Eagan is going to see Cedar Grove develop into what, 144 stores?
Yeah. No, I give Pat tremendous credit there too. It just, you know, the question is, should we listen to the businesses that are struggling and help them? And then the question is, how far do we help them? Do we make Cedarville development ready? And that's a big, to some would say, gosh, that's a big risk.
Well, it certainly
I think
is.
Under Pat's leadership, we do need to acquire some buildings. We do need to make it development ready. We did that, and we were slowed down, no question, by the recession the last 5 years from 2007 on, but who wasn't? And now to have Paragon building the shops at Cedar Grove, what a wonderful thing. And it's infusing some really wonderful dollars into the community, and it's going to be
and some quality stores
quality
coming
stores
in also.
It'll be fantastic. It'll help the hospitality industry too.
It will.
Very accessible, and the hospitality industry has grown. I mean, one of my favorites is Ramon from Andiamo, who's been here several times, and if you haven't been there yet,
that's a great
you gotta
restaurant.
go. It's a terrific Italian restaurant in a location where 3 predecessors failed.
that's right.
And
Doing
story
well.
that Tom told me about Pat and her stewardship as mayor, he said we'd be at a meeting and she would look at a wall
Oh.
and she'd say, boy, that really needs to be painted. Can we get it done by Saturday? And if we didn't get it done, I'd come in Saturday and Pat was painting the wall.
She'd be painting the wall. That's
Tells
right.
you something about an activist mayor.
She moved. She kept us moving. It wasn't, I think once the decision was reached to do whatever, it was clean up the debris for a storm or paint the wall. I'm using that, more as a metaphor, but there's just so many things that let's move ahead. Let's get the project done, results oriented, and I thrive on that. I like that because there was no procrastination at all, and that's why we have. And I'll be forever thankful when I sit in the community center and I think about not only a vision but an energy that you gave and the council at that time. Let's tackle it. Let's get it done, and it's benefited the community.
And not the least of things, we sit in a state-of-the-art television studio
Oh, goodness, yes.
with high-definition equipment.
Yeah.
Now, we had a partnership with Burnsville for
Yeah.
20 years, and they decided they were going to move on. They never told us about it. Came as a great shock. You were much more civil about it than I was when they told
I
us.
wasn't around.
They told us we were moving the operation into the Burnsville
High school.
High school.
Yeah.
You were very civil about it. I said 2 words, and it wasn't Merry Christmas. I went to Rick King here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
just with what we would call chutzpah, pitched the idea of the city forming a partnership with Thomson Reuters to benefit both. We have this. We're going to start our 4th year in these beautiful, beautiful
Yeah.
locations here with the equipment, with the control room, with the city employees who are in this building doing not only the city's work but Thomson Reuters' work and saving money for both,
That's right.
which is something that has to appeal to Pat.
It does. Very much. Good job.
And I think, Ellen, had it not been for that conversation with Rick King and your vision, your idea to make to suggest this, we wouldn't be here today. And I've had Burnsville ask, "How's it working?" And my comment is working wonderfully.
Yeah.
You know, we have
And they're really struggling over there.
They are.
I know this. Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
And it's a great partnership. We have I've been here twice this week, and I know that Thomson Reuters uses the studio. It's
Rick
great.
is a visionary, particularly when
Yeah.
it comes to technology.
He is.
And
Yeah.
likewise, you had to have the vision that, hey, this can really benefit both of us. And, it's been written about throughout the country of this
Yes.
public-private partnership of Thomson Reuters with the city of Eagan.
I think there's a lot of that in Eagan. We're really blessed because we have a lot of people that are in leadership positions within business who are also, many live in Eagan.
right.
They're active with groups, whether it's the Rotary or the Chamber or the Y. And so we've been able to, it isn't just the staff and the council that has come up with ideas. It's also people in the community.
That's right.
That
That's
say,
right.
hey, let's form this partnership. The ice arena was the brainchild originally of the Hockey Association.
It was.
And
Yeah.
and
And
we
it's
got
a great ice arena that's always packed.
right and was built the right way. It actually was cash flowing off revenue. I don't know what it's
And
doing
still
now,
is,
but
and it still
you know,
is.
yeah,
Yeah.
off the actual revenue. So
Yeah.
it doesn't cost taxpayer money. And Cascade Bay was the same way. And but that was a lot of money that was
Yes.
raised by members of the community, and Tom Eagan helped. He was the mayor through a hockey association. So we've really been blessed to have great people. The Rotary Band Shell up at
Exactly.
the
Central
community
Park
center.
and
Yeah.
Community
Central
Center.
Park. I mean, these are community groups with, and I think they feel, people that run those groups feel that they can approach the city, whether it's Tom or a mayor, and form partnerships.
And
That's right.
people really have pride in their city.
Yep.
They do.
And that's very important. What's your best memory of this 38 years?
Oh, goodness. Well, I suppose I was actually asked that question in my top 10 memories, and I think certainly on the city council realm, some of our retreats were just the best. I mean, where we could bond and vision and all that. I think out of that is the outbirth of some of the things that Pat was just talking about, projects. I'd have to say the West Publishing story is a favorite. I mean, that is the best of all economic development stories.
7,000 people working in this building here.
And being able to bring that, I've had an opportunity to be with John Nassif on a couple of occasions here in the last couple of weeks, and it's been wonderful to reminisce and just talk about, again, how that relationship was formed at that time. The interstates, you know, at the time, we take those for granted, but the interstate development, when they were on the drawing board for Eagan back in the late 70s, the interstate was designed to take people through this community someplace, not to suggest that they would get off in Eagan. There were only 2 exits, and we argued for what we have today, and that has been, I think, an economic development boom, just having additional exits, and we don't think about that today.
What about the curve in the interstate?
And the curve.
You could tell that story.
The interstate was proposed over Black Hawk Lake that Pat's referencing, and that was to allow deer movement and people movement and all that. And the associated families, 7 families on Black Hawk Lake, said, ain't going to happen. And they sued the city, sued MnDOT, and we were in court for a couple of years wrangling with that, and long story short, it went around the lake, not over it. So, but that's okay. You know, that happened, and probably for the right reasons. And I think building the organization too, being able to grow a staff from 30 people to where we are today, and hire talent and figure out a way for that talent to grow and work with the city council and the community and all that. And there's so many stories.
I think we're going to change the name to Hedges, Minnesota. And I think we've been talking with, and I can't believe we're down to the last minute.
Oh, goodness.
Tom Hedges and Pat Anderson, and you've both been regular guests. Pat has actually been more regular a guest than it. Once a year when I need abuse, I have her in, but and she's
That's
just
what you told me.
I did, yeah. He abuses me.
Yeah.
I could take it. That's why
That's
I show
right.
up.
That's
she really is. She can give and take equally, and it's been a great relationship. And Tom, we are all in your debt for what you have given to this city, and actually to the state. Really.
Thank you.
Eagan has grown into a city that people look at and envy. And it's under your stewardship for which we are ever in your debt. And thank you. I hate to see you leave in this capacity, but good luck in whatever the future holds.
Thank you very much.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Tom.
Pat. Thank you.
Pat, come back to us.